Good day, YouTube. Back with another video here. And as you can see, I'm still doing some work to the 2022 Chevy Silverado here. Now, this video is solely on the rims here. It came with a factory powder-coated silver rim, but I've decided to do something different just to add a little bit of my taste to the design here. So first to the tire shop, had the tire and all the rubber removed since I'm going to be powder coating these rims, and just look towards further images towards the video here and you will see the color I chose and the extra design that I added to it. Now, rather than to sandblast the powder coated surface, which is already applied to the rim, I've decided to do something different, which I've never actually seen done. I'm going to apply my powder over the powder coated surface, which is fairly surfaced, smooth and nice to where I would not have to make any corrections, but to some small areas which had a bit of scratches and scuffs. Now, as you can see, I'm covering all of the areas where I do not want the powder to go. This is my hook here, which I will use to hang the rim as I'm doing my powder coating. On the scene here today, as you can see, I'm working with the Eastwood dual voltage powder coating system. And this is the rim that is hung on the rack here. Now, because I'm doing some sort of a two-tone to it, it's going to be a different color on the outer surface, but I'm adding a red. Now, make sure that you shake these bottles up very well because they tend to clump up, and that only interferes with the performance when the air is actually causing the powder to jump within the bottle when you're powder coating. These are my heat lamps here. Now, before I apply the powder, I will do a preheat because at times I find that it allows the powder to actually settle a little better. It actually helps on top of the negative voltage that you do apply to the rim here. And in addition, it allows you to watch the powder settle in real time as it's going through its transformation of actually curing on top of the surface of the other powder coated area of the wheel here. But I have my air turned to a low air pressure here just to see to it that I can actually control the amount of powder that I do want to make contact with the wheel here. But I like to be careful at the same time because the handle on this gun also has a variable. And when you take your hand off the trigger, it actually builds up a little more pressure than what is actually set to, just to kind of balance out the amount of pressure that's in the bottle here. So now that the powder is over the rim, I will place the heat lamps back on top of the powder coated surface. And as you can see here, it has already settled. I actually gave it about 30 minutes just to let it cool down. It's actually still hot. It does take time for the material to actually cool down. So I try to be very careful on how I'm removing the tape liners here because I don't want to pull it in such a way to where it kind of aggravates the straight lining that I have for the red material here. So now that the red powder is applied, I'll pretty much remove all of the tape that I have over the silver area, but just being cautious so that I'm pulling everything out to where I'm not actually causing damage to the red line. And it's pretty much just an inverse preparation. Now I'm covering the red area so that when I do apply the black powder, it does not fall over the surface of the redded area. And I pretty much just follow the same procedure. I'll do a preheat let it warm up, and then once the rim reaches a certain temperature, I'll apply the black powder, as you will see here. And this is from Prismatic Powders also. I love their black powder. It lays down pretty well. And I have to say, over the rim, which is already powder coated here, I did not have any issues with, I guess, adhesion and contact. Just see to it that all of your lines are nicely contacted and that the surface where all of the metal is actually making contact is clean, so that none of the powder is interfering to cause less of a grounding effect, so that the powder could actually stick on the surface here. But as you can see, slowly just laying down the black powder. And this is just to the front of the wheel, which I've decided to do. I did not want to, don't want to say waste material, but apply it to areas that are not really visualized and will not cause much of a great, better performance to the wheel here. But as you can see, the powder is laying down nicely, seeing to it that all of the areas are properly covered here. Now, what I have to say also about powder coating my rim this way, I come to find that even though I've laid down a good substantial amount of the black powder, when I do pull the lamps back, there are certain areas that are less enhanced than others. So I end up actually having to resurface some of the areas of the black powder just to see to it that the coverage is symmetrical. So it allows me to actually do everything in real time. I apply the powder, but at the same time, I could watch it as it's going through its transformation. And if there's certain areas I do see that's lightly covered or not covered as much as the neighboring areas, I could actually pull it back and give it another coat. Now, as you can see here, YouTube, the black powder is actually settled and it's nice and glossy. Now, when it comes to the red surface, there were some areas, some way, somehow, that the black powder did get into the area. So I ended up applying just a light surface coverage of the red, but rather than to reseal the other areas here, I just placed the one lamp to cover that one area. Now, moving on to the other wheel here, as you can see, this has a bit more of the road rashes, a bit more surface damage than the other. So before I apply the powder, like anything else when it comes to painting, you want to make sure that your surface areas are uniform, so that the damages that are present will not reveal itself underneath your powder, because the layering is actually very thin, and if there is a flawed area, it will present itself over the new powder that you're laying. So I like to make sure that the surface is nice and smooth as much as I can get it to be before I actually lay the powder. Now, this is just the prepping stage for the other rim here. These are all the areas where I do not want to cover with powder, so I'm just sealing it off with some aluminum paper here. And as you can see, it's just the front face of the rim which actually presents itself for show that I am covering. Now, because I've laid powder, these are all my contact points here for the grounding effect of the rim that sends that energy through the wire to allow the powder to actually charge towards the surface of the rim here for good adhesion. So same process as you can see here. I did a preheat, applied the powder, and it's just a matter of letting it sit. But at the same time, as it's settling, I'm monitoring the rim. Every 10, 15 minutes, I'll just come back out just to see how it looks. And I'd say each rim, I got it up to a temperature of maybe 200 Fahrenheit. And I watch it from time to time just to make sure that everything is covered properly. Now, with this rim, I did a reverse application. I applied the black before I actually did the red because it was such a larger area. And to cover the redded area, it was not much of a hassle since the black was already done. But as you can see here, all of the areas are nicely covered so that the red does not interfere with the black. And I'm just covering just this one little spot here. And I have the rim laying down supine. And I have a hook over the rim, which where I will actually allow my heat lamp to settle, but at the same time facing only the redded area so that it does not reheat the black to warp the smooth surface that was already applied there. I would also like to add, when it comes to prepping to lay powder down, all of my taped areas, I like to double tape because just like painting, there is overspray. And as you can see along the creased edges of the red here, there is that overspray of powder. And when you're removing your tape, it agitates this powder because it's such a light material, so it does fly around. So I'll either double tape or I'll add 3 layers to where that first layer has the scattered powder, which is not needed. So I'm cleaning out the area so that when I do remove the tape lining, that agitated powder does not fall over the areas where it's not necessary. Now, YouTube, as you can see here, this is the Silverado, and as you can actually see, the rims are on the truck and it's giving it a different appearance. And I'd say this is a one-off. No one actually has this. This is just my idea. This is something I have done. And as you can see here, it presents itself in a much more sportier fashion, I would say. And this is the work that I've done. Thank you, YouTube. Please like, share, and subscribe.